Hello and welcome to this vlog from a roof terrace. I would show you around, but I'm scared that I will give away the location, which is not ideal. I've been living very nomadically recently, so I'm relying on people's kindness and love and our friendships and relationships to be able to have this lifestyle before having quite the financial part required. But I'm also a really big fan of frugality, and I've become a master budgeter, and I just think it's amazing being able, just how much we're able to leverage nowadays to be able to achieve a lot of your goals and intentions, needs and desires with very little. I think that's just a beautiful principle of life, and something that I'm definitely going to continue to apply even when I'm rich. I think I've said this a few times in different contexts. Anyway, besides the point, today I want to talk about a very common question, which is how... Well, I often get asked like how I do so much. And for me, the answer relates a lot to when we talk about success, even though I still would not describe myself as having reached success. I see success a lot in my life, in the sense that I'm living the way I want to, and a lot of aspects about my life actually are the way I want them to be, and I feel incredibly lucky and grateful for that. And so for me, that is success in a certain way, but there's also levels, and there's a certain level that I definitely want to reach that is still feels very far away, linearly speaking, but I know that exponentially it could just always be around the corner. And a lot more things are exponential than we realize. So I try to be very aware of that. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about a mixture of things that I think are important contributors to success, and also things that make me personally be able to do a lot, which you can decide for yourself whether that's leading to success or not. That's just a personal trait. Is I like to do a lot, and I like to not just do in the sense of just being busy, but like kind of like achieve a lot or create a lot. I've recently heard Ali Abdaal talk about a book that I think I began reading but then dropped called The Unfair Advantage, and that's the first simple truth that we all have to be aware of and accept, is that performance in general, not just success, but just how well you perform at anything, is very strongly affected by unfair advantages. And I really love the analogy of the education system being like asking a bunch of different animals to climb a tree, and that's the final test. So of course the fish is going to fail every time, whereas the monkey is going to excel. And so when you take any group of people and get them to do anything, there's going to be different levels of advantages and disadvantages, and a lot of that is just kind of set in stone to a certain extent, in that moment at least, because of where the person came from. If someone was born a certain way and they've expressed this trait for years, then by the time this moment comes, someone else who is completely different in that way, that is useful, is going to have no chance. And so in that sense it's kind of predetermined, even though I really believe that we can change over time, we can develop that, you can work on anything you want. So it's really important to be aware of unfair advantages, not just so you can go, oh well, I guess life sucks, but so you can figure out what yours are and exploit them. And so when I recently, one sec, by the way, merch. This isn't online yet, but this is a design that an artist made for me for the Openers brand, and I want to start selling soon, so check us out if you like this kind of style. Where was I? As soon as I started to realize I function differently, which is why I'm pretty certain that I'm neurodivergent, even though I don't have a diagnosis yet, and it's probably sort of in the ADHD direction rather than the other types of neurodivergence. Although I think it's always a bit of a combination. But anyway, I started to really learn a lot about it and talk to other people and analyze it, and realized, okay, some of the traits of ADHD include likely to be distracted, but why? Because of a lot of energy. Okay, so I thought, a lot of energy, that sounds like a superpower, lots of mental energy. And I really love the analogy of someone who said, it's like driving a Ferrari with bicycle brakes. So it's really, really hard to brake. It's very slow and maybe to steer as well. But you have this massive engine that a lot of people don't have. And so if we assume all of this to be true, just taking this analogy, I thought, okay, well then how can I deal with these two conditions? I guess the engine is my unfair advantage, and everyone has their unfair disadvantages too. So I need to design a life and an approach to life that allows me to exploit the engine without having problems that arise from steering and braking issues, right? So I figured out I need to be in perpetual motion, and that's why I chose doing a lot. And okay, I thought, if we're prone to distraction and being excitable, then why not just only do things that are exciting and that I would be distracted by anyway? And so through distraction, through allowing it over a long period of time, I gradually got to understand what it is that appeals to me, just following this childlike fascination. And so now we come to another success point. People tell you to follow your passion. I don't think that's quite true. I am quite a fan of Steve Jobs, but I think that's the biggest generalization that he brought into the world that is quite harmful, I think. It's not necessarily a lie. Maybe for some people it's true. You can say that about anything. It'll be true for someone. But in a lot of cases, it's better to find something you're good at, something that makes sense, something that is necessary, something that you believe in for some greater reason, and then do that, even if it's not your passion. Okay, I guess if you believe in it and you believe it has a higher purpose, then you're likely to have a passion for it, but not necessarily. You know, like I'm also very values driven, and that's an important point as well, both for doing a lot and for being successful. And that helps me to be like, this is what I'm aiming for, this is what I want to create or give or experience, and therefore I will do anything necessary to get there. Not in terms of like killing people, but I mean in terms of doing things that are not enjoyable. So if I want to get to a certain point, it requires a lot of different things, and I'm not going to like all of them, but I can, you know, grit my teeth and get through it because of that end image, the carrot at the end of the stick. But you have to pick your own carrot, that's the thing, and you have to make sure that it's not on a stick, but that you're actually going towards it out there, and that have reality checks, right? So this is why following your passion is dangerous, because you can just spend time doing what you love and not working on the other things that are necessary to actually move forwards and get somewhere. And also because just because you happen to have a passion for something doesn't mean that it necessarily makes sense for you, for your situation, for your values, for development and being able to actually do stuff, to create stuff, and to find success, whatever that looks like for you. And for a lot of questions, there's also the simple answer that you only really understand once you've experienced it. And one of them, like in this case, it would be, how do you do so much? Well, just do it. I just have this principle of just don't stop the motion. Unless I need a break, in which case I try to make it an intentional, conscious, good break. You know, it could be spending quality time with someone, meditating, reading, writing, being really present in the moment, just observing my surroundings or nature, sleeping. If I'm gonna watch something on TV, then it should be something I enjoy, something that I think is good, for whatever reason, even if it's stupid. Maybe it makes me laugh, maybe it's a good distraction, maybe the colors are pretty, you know, whatever you do. I think intentionality, there we go, that's another great point, is super, super important. But yeah, going back to the simple answer, sometimes it can be frustrating to get those, but I actually really like those, because when someone gives you the simple answer, like, well, just do it, it means that it's more related to state and mindset, and that through experience you will get there at some point. I just watched a really, really long ad from Mind Valley for their Silva Method program. Sorry if I sound shaky, it's cold here. And became fascinated by this sort of thing again. How most of your experience, which translates to your reality, is just all determined by what's inside you. And so I really like the principle of maybe not necessarily having to understand everything and have a blueprint for everything and, learn the way, learn the knowledge, but just being able to say, okay, I want to be that way. How do I find a way to be this thing, this brain, essentially. And we have the amazing capacity and plasticity to do that almost intuitively if you really try, if you find the right altered states of mind, if you are clear enough on what it is that you're trying to recreate in yourself. And that's where, for example, having role models or things like tutoring in school really helped me personally, because I sat next to someone who's really good at something and I could see it in them how and why they're good at it. And just this kind of rapport was, for me, half of the experience, which also works online, by the way, I've realized. But I was lucky enough to have them sitting next to me, and not just the stuff that we were learning, but also experiencing this person allowed me to zone into what it means to be a physicist, a mathematician, a literature expert. And that's how I aced my high school. So this is kind of just like a rain of ideas, and I don't know how much longer the video will be able to continue, but I'm gonna go over time because I don't mind if I'm inspired. I think I shouldn't be limiting my content so strictly. It's something I've learned. I wanted to have my podcasts always be 20 minutes, and then I would chop it up and reduce all silences and make 2 and 3 part episodes. And I'm like, no, there's people publishing 1 and 2 hour long podcasts. If it's good, it's good. Just put it out there. So, okay, let's do a recap. How to do a lot. I have an unfair advantage, but remember, it also comes with disadvantages. So whichever things you feel you may be lacking, there's always a bright side. And whichever things you have, make sure you understand their shadow as well. The simple answer, just do it. And then some points for success. Don't necessarily follow your passion, but focus on your unfair advantage. Figure out what you believe in, what are your values. And whoops, there was a cut-off point. Figure out what you believe in, what your values are, and understand that a lot of things are going to be a part of that you're not going to enjoy. And that maybe the main thing that you will be doing will not be your passion. Something I mentioned fleetingly, but I should emphasize again, is one great way to do a lot, probably also for neurotypical people, and to keep doing stuff, is to find the right mix for you. Experiment with variety, with different combinations, with different types of activities and requirements, things that are required of your system for each thing, if that makes sense, until you find a way to generate this sort of perpetual motion. So for example, if you know that you are someone who gets mentally tired after 2 hours of mental work, like reading or writing, processing, teaching, and then you end up having a lot of nervous physical energy, but you also know that your physical stamina is kind of explosive, short, and then it's gone, and then you'll be sleepy, then you can try to create a lifestyle where you're able to plan your intellectual work in blocks of 1 to 2 hours, where your environment allows you to exercise explosively when you have the freedom to nap. And then you can just cycle through these sort of never-endingly, right? And then the more you do these things that are very intense for you, that are intensely enjoyable, intensely demanding, and you switch between them, the more you learn at each point what you now need for your dynamic balance. At least that's the way I've decided to live my life. And this is why things like flexible time and remote work are so important to me. Because for me, it's not just a preference, it's kind of like a necessity to be able to live this dynamic balance. Wow, beautiful sunlight. Yeah, and I guess something I should mention that I've already talked a lot about are systems and automation. If you're trying to create a lot and kind of have a lot of output into the world, well, in our modern day and age, you can exponentiate yourself. Oh man, it cut off again. Okay, so I was just saying, through systems and automation nowadays, you can exponentiate yourself. Like the way I'm just filming something really short every time I get the chance to. I'm slowly building up this inventory of videos, which I do maybe every 3 to 4 days. But then I have sort of outbursts where I'm filming every day or twice a day. And I'm only releasing them twice a week, which is an average every 3.5 days. Right, so I'm filming short snippets way more frequently than I'm going to be publishing them. And then the extra work required to publish them, I'm delegating. So that's like, it literally takes me 15 minutes per video to get that done. And once I've spent those 15 minutes twice, so 30 total minutes of creation time have given me a week of output, if you look at it that way. So for every 30 minutes I spend filming and preparing and sharing with my assistant, I have a whole week ahead of me that is taken care of, right? So I could sit down and spend 4 hours filming and then not do anything for 2 months. And you still have this feeling of myself being constant. And that's the mind-blowing magic that is possible today. And I can do the same with my writing articles, I can do the same with my tweets, with my Instagram posts. And so yourself and what you're wanting to put out into the world can be out there constantly, everywhere, without you having to be permanently available and permanently outputting. Yeah. So another way to achieve a lot, to have a lot of leverage, and which ultimately also leads to success, is of course people, relationships, networks, communication, leadership, collaboration. This sort of thing has been the stuff of mankind ever since we exist. And so that's one of the main things that sets us apart. If you're interested in this, you can read Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. It gives an amazing introduction and explanation, so much knowledge about where we came from and how that is actually what makes us really unique as a species. It's not necessarily our opposable thumbs or other aspects of our big fat brains or whatever. It's the fact that we're able to tell stories and create fictions in such a way that it moves other people, and in such a way that it's very scalable, so you can share the same story with theoretically all people, you know, and the fact that we have common languages and things like that, so you can mobilize millions of people, which means animals have no chance against us, right? They're only able to communicate in... Okay, so now I really have less than a minute to wrap it up. Yeah, so we're an incredible species, largely because of the power of groups that we have developed. So connect to people, move people, share, find common and shared ideals and values, all three, ideas, ideals and values, and use them to do a lot and to move a lot and to put something out into the world. So that's one of the most powerful ways to create and make things happen, and therefore ultimately find success. So I hope that this shower of ideas has really helped you to gain some food for thought and good starting points for your further research and growth. Let me know below what was the most interesting, if you have anything to add, if you have any questions, what I should talk more about. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for sticking it out this long. Take care.